Welcome back, everyone, to part 3. This is the final part for today, for Wednesday, July 10th. Alright, we're going to cover, first we're going to cover with the kind of eugenics and social engineering, and then we'll kind of move into some other news as well. Manitoba students face consequences for defying pro-gay code of conduct in a bid to become Canada's most LGBT-influenced school system. The Ministry of Education has announced development of a new provincial code of conduct added on the top of its proposed anti-bullying legislation that critics say will effectively silence any student voice dissenting from the gay agenda. So it says what this means for gay students is that when they are bullied, there will be very clear consequences. Everybody in the school will know what those consequences are. Bullying of any student for any reason is categorically wrong. So it says here, if this code was sincerely about anti-bullying, we'd applaud it. However, the code's preoccupation with homosexuality broadcast its true intent, which is to provide a weapon with which gay activists can smear and silence Bible-believing students, teachers, and parents. So this person from Campaign Life Coalition said, what's going to happen is that the term bullying will be interpreted to include a student simply expressing his or her religious beliefs about marriage and human sexuality. These individual students that speak out may find him or herself accused of homophobic bullying. Then under this code, they themselves could be subject to disciplinary action. This is the actual article that they're referencing to from July 5th. Manitoba, new code sets clear consequences for homophobia. Education advocate said it basically reads like a grocery list of everything I wanted to see. I never heard of any of this Ender's Game, but Geeks Out activists call for Ender's Game boycott over author's anti-LGBT views. So, U.S. group Geeks Out launches Skip Ender's Game website, citing novelist Orson Scott Card's opposition to gay marriage. The U.S. activist group has called for a boycott of the forthcoming science fiction epic Ender's Game, in protest at the anti-gay views of the author Orson Scott Card. U.S. street preacher arrested in London for saying homosexuality is sinful. A visiting American Christian evangelist was arrested earlier this month in the UK for preaching that homosexual acts are sinful. The arrest was made under the notorious Section 5 of Public Order Act, despite the fact that the pertinent wording of the laws was recently overturned by Parliament after a rash of similar incidents and a campaign against the law spearheaded by actor and comedian Rowan Atkinson, or Mr. Bean. So he goes on here and he says that I guess he was preaching, and he says while doing so, a woman approached him. She turned, glared at me, and told me to F off. I asked her why she was being so judgmental and that I would love to dialogue with her. She then left, but later called police, who arrived and arrested Milano, telling him he was guilty of using homophobic speech that could cause people anxiety, distress, alarm, or insult. In the video of the arrest, the police officer can be heard telling Milano, "We're arresting you under Section 5 of Public Order. This is because people have been offended by what you've said." Milano said he tried to explain to the officers that there was nothing homophobic about my speech because I'm not afraid of homosexuals, that I love homosexuals enough to want to bring them to the truth of gospel. So, whatever. It says here, YMCA denies pro-life students in Texas use of its showers, and they're defending their decision. So, local YMCA branch is offering no apologies for forcing a group of pro-life students out of its facilities following complaints from pro-abortion activists. The Students for Life of America said they had originally reached an agreement with the branch of YMCA to use their showers during its week-long Student Stand for Life bus tour. Members are staying at the Austin area churches, which lack showers. We had absolutely no problems on Monday night when we used their facilities, said the director of field operations, but the pro-abortion activists who helped shout down legislators objected strongly, and YMCA officials kicked the pro-lifers out. Some angry pro-abortion activists were being very aggressive with YMCA staff, and the staff felt threatened. So, say if any person or group creates an atmosphere that is disruptive, we have an obligation to our members and program participants to ask that person or group to leave or refuse them access. So very fair and equal. Texas House approves controversial abortion bill. So I guess controversial would be that they just outlawed it indefinitely, but this is controversial because you had the one female surrounded by a bunch of zombies chanting "Hail Satan," I believe it was. God bless America. That, to basically try to oppose this bill. So that's why it makes it controversial. Kind of like down in, what was that, Florida, I think it was, where they were opening up that atheist monument because they had a little Ten Commandments monument outside the government building. And the locals are basically saying, these people come from up north. They're not even from around here. They're not. They don't even hold the same values as us. But they're going to come down here and put this monument, a big middle finger in our face. So it says here, it voted 98 to 49 to give approval to proposal geared to prevent abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy and put place restrictions that essentially would shut down most abortion clinics in Texas. So someone that was basically opposing this bill, they like to use the term reproductive health and women's right. They said, let's not say the bill is about women's health or about public safety. It will do a lot to prevent safe and legal killing of babies. Slate writer, we need happy, blithe, and unapologetic abortion stories. A feminist writer for Slate has said that the pro-choice women should stop apologizing for having abortions of convenience and express their joy at being free of responsibilities. So she wrote, enough with the grueling, wrenching, I had an abortion essay. So says here, a lot of women have abortions and don't look back. A lot of women don't want a baby, and they don't care whether the fetus is viable or how much money is in their bank account. The former editor of the website Jezebel. The Slate piece is the most recent, but far from the first plea for post-abortive feminists to share tales of uplifting, empowering termination. So it says here, S.E. Smith at the website Zojane.com wrote that she chose to wear my abortion on my sleeve so other women would know if you had an abortion you can rock on with your bad self. She implored other women to follow her lead. Several have. So Jessica Del Balzo wrote that women should venerate abortion wholeheartedly in her essay, I love abortion, implying otherwise accomplishes nothing for women's rights. Then Del Balzo, an outspoken opponent of adoption, had previously expressed gratitude for her euphoric abortion experience in an essay titled My Happy Abortion. So she said here that upon rising from the abortion table, I unsuccessfully attempted to repress the huge grin that had developed on my face. Last month, a New York Times carried a story by former Seattle Council member Judy DeCastro, who wrote she was grateful her abortion let her son die in a warm and loving place. And they try to make the case how much of a relief and how happy they are, but much research shows that they have a higher percentage of becoming, or a greater chance of becoming, depressed. Chinese woman gives birth in toilet and throws baby girl down 12 stories to her death, says police. So she gave birth in the public toilet and threw the baby out of the 12-story window to her death. So next up we have Chile's president praises 11-year-old pregnant rape victim for her maturity and not pursuing illegal abortion. So this is from Raw Story. So abortions have been illegal in Chile since the reign of the dictator. Chile is one of the most conservative nations in Latin America. The 11-year-old girl herself gave a TV interview in which her face was obscured in it. She said, it will be like having a doll in my arms. I'm going to love the baby very much, even though it comes from a man who hurt me. And then we have top Ontario official arrested for child porn said sex charge equity program was a priority. The former top Ontario education official who was charged this week with making child porn stated in a 2009 letter that a government strategy seeking to embed the liberal sexual diversity agenda in the schools was a priority for him. So you guys probably remember this, but about the website that basically was pretty crazy. But in April 6, 2009, Dr. Benjamin Levine informs school boards and principals of the release of the government's Equity and Inclusive Education Strategy, which had sparked controversy because of its promotion of homosexual activism in the school. One element of the strategy was a radical sex ed program beginning with 6-year-olds in first grade that was shelved by the premier because of the backlash from parents. Project manager for Campaign Life Coalition says the letter appears to be proof positive that Levine was directly involved in crafting the government's sexually charged curriculum inclusive education strategy, so meant to be weaved into the grade schools, recommends schools to participate in homosexual pride parades, which are known for their lewd sexual displays, including half-naked men dressed in S&M attire, also urging teachers to use texts written by gay lesbian authors and bringing these groups to the school to counsel the youth and promote a gay-straight alliance club. Switching gears, hero Fukushima boss dies of cancer, so he defied orders in an effort to prevent nuclear disaster, hailed as a hero. So it says here, he died at the age of 58. Stated the plan to try to stabilize it after the March quake tsunami prevented Japan's worst nuclear disaster from getting even worse by ignoring orders to cease pumping seawater into the damaged reactor at the plant he managed. Says here he had offered to lead a suicide mission to cool another reactor, but says here he retired in 2011 after being diagnosed with basically esophagus cancer. Which was not believed to be the result of the radiation exposure. He was a heavy smoker, and the disease would normally take between 5 and 10 years to develop if it was from radiation. Fukushima radioactive levels surged 90-fold in 3 days, so pretty crazy. TEPCO is saying, we still don't know why the level of radiation surged, but we are continuing efforts to avert further expansion of contamination. And on Japan, just thought I'd include this, Japan government to change inflation calculation, ushering in even more Bank of Japan central bank liquidity. The goal is that it will mean higher energy prices will be taken out of the equation. Pesticide use spikes as GMO failure cripples Corn Belt. Midwest farmers douse their fields in chemicals as insects grow resistance to Bt corn. Yeah, just saw them spraying around my neck of the woods recently too. Toronto, big wet. Canada's largest city flooded. So they have some heavy weather modification up in Canada, just like the U.S., just like everywhere. But yeah, that's probably the result of it. But unknown force changing cloud shape, unknown source of light in the sky, acting as if someone is controlling it. So rapidly morphing the shape of this cloud. You can go ahead and check it out. Pretty creepy. Of course, you got people going there and say, it's ice crystals, kind of like how they say the condensation is ice crystals. You know, they're chemicals, they're nanofibers, you know, giving their scientific analysis of it. And then there's some people saying that, oh, it's just a reflection. Death Valley, people quit frying eggs on the sidewalk, so today marks 100 years since the heat record was set in Death Valley National Park. They say it's impossible to fry eggs on the pavement anyway unless you use a skillet with a lid to keep the moisture in. Yeah, I mean, I can see what they're saying, but I could have sworn I've seen on one of them survival shows that they were actually frying eggs on a rock. But Death Valley high temperature record likely broken, but will go unnoticed this is from June 30th. So a record 135 degrees. It says here it may go down as one of the weather services missed. Tropical storm Chantel heading to Caribbean Sea, then Florida to the Gulf in Hurricane Katrina-like path. Currently has 45-mile-an-hour winds, and they're climbing. It says here it's heading to southern Puerto Rico, and by Wednesday into Thursday, crossing into the Bahamas. By the weekend, finally into Florida and out into the Gulf. And as far as current long-wave frequency magnitude readings for HARP, the HARP status, you have the southeast and southwest at low, medium. And the building frequency, it says here, is in the southeast. So, you know, good job. Maybe they're whatever they can do, right, to make it worse. It says here, San Francisco jetliner crash caused by airlines turning pilots into computer geeks who can't fly, says commercial pilot. So it says here, a Titanic of commercial airliners be piloted so carelessly that the pilot seemingly flew into a seawall and caused the accident. How could that be? It says there's no more pilots flying these planes. The real pilots have nearly all retired. Remember that we talked about that a while ago, about a pilot shortage, leaving a bunch of computer geeks who have almost no flying skills and only how to operate computerized automatic flight equipment, which is subject to catastrophic failure. You know, this makes total sense to me. It says the bigger the plane, the worse the pilot. The airlines are trying to dumb down most of the entire fleet, and the pilots are losing all their flying skills, says this pilot X in a phone interview. They don't want pilots, they want computer geeks instead of someone who can actually fly. Get humans out of the cockpit. Holman Jenkins thinks transportation ought to be automated. So, there you go. There you go. This is what Holman Jenkins says at the Wall Street Journal. So, I mean, you can't make this crap up. The same question came to mind in the Asiana crash, in which human pilots appear to have been relying on the system that was down at the time. So, saying they're losing a bunch of skills. So let's just go completely automated. But this does make sense, what they're saying right here. Fully automated transportation is necessary and inevitable. With Google already with the self-driving cars, if computers ever get the vote, they will quickly vote the rest of us off the road as a major hazard to their safety, safely zooming around. So a professor that said that unmanned automated drones can perform more ethically than humans. First Navy drone completes an unmanned carrier landing. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you, guys.